Welcome to the July 7th Data Sift Biweekly Mastermind. I hope you guys had a safe and enjoyable weekend, July 4th, with your family. Um, First mastermind of July is going to be a pretty cool one. You know, Mr. Al, I'm familiar with Al. I've been around Al for a few years now. His journey as a attorney, as an entrepreneur, as an overall just a man, and it has been pretty exciting to watch. He's a relatively public guy with the content he puts out and the information he puts out for people. So it's been a really cool journey for Al, and he's got a lot to talk about. He is probably an expert, a full-on just absolute expert in the probate space. So today is going to be awesome for a lot of you guys. Um, what we're going to do today is we're going to start out with we're going to cross some T's, dot some I's on the probate process, some of the things that are like the non-negotiable things that when Al speaks, it's kind of like we got to talk about these because there's going to be a large batch of people in this call that just kind of have these questions. So we're going to try and get the ones that we guarantee are in this call waiting, loaded in someone's brain right now. We're going to get it answered right away. Um, so we're going to do that, and then I have a few unique questions I'm going to ask them, and then it's just a complete Q&A. This isn't very formal. This is let's just what's on our mind. Let's learn it. Let's ask. Let's see if we can solve it, and we'll do as best. Thank you for being here, man. If you want to give your 30-second spiel of who you are, what you do, and then we'll just knock out some of those quick questions right off the rip.
Yeah, Mason, thank you guys so much for having me here. Love the whole community with Data Sift and really appreciate everybody taking that time. For those that don't know, my name's Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida. We handle probates and all the messy, crazy things a lot of people see out there. For 9 years, I've been doing probate, and recently we added some other things like curative title stuff like partitions and guardianships and quiet title and some of the messy things people hear about. And one of the unique things that we do is we will wait until the closing for fees, which is a huge value add for a lot of people. And we only service the state of Florida. We don't go anywhere outside of Florida. And we work with just so many investors, including a lot of sifters. So I'm happy to be here, Mason. Always love doing this stuff with you. And like you said, yeah, it's crazy to think since 22 we've been
Mm-hmm.
knowing each other, so it's
Well,
great to
I
see this
met
journey.
you when you did an event in Fort Walton. I was your videographer.
Yes,
So
yeah.
that was pretty cool. And then from there, I've seen you a handful of times. Last time I saw you, I'm pretty sure I overdosed on picanha and grilled pineapple at the Brazil restaurant. I'm still recovering from that. So, yes, awesome to see you again. So I would say let's just get right into it. I got a list of 6 questions that from my Claude research of dozens of your interviews, these are the ones that is pretty much always asked. And from seeing you speak a few times, I know you talk about them. I'll label them out real quick. And if I miss any, obviously, you fill in the blanks. Obviously, one of the first questions is qualifying probate leads and then probate timeline. And then if you want to follow it up with your probate Macarena, that kind of thing, just do your usual stuff here and let's get it all out there for everybody right away.
Yeah, so in terms of qualifying a lot of these probates, I think a lot of people always focus on the probate terminology and the words itself, and there's a lot of other things that come with the probate aspect. So, for starters, anytime you find out that somebody owned the property and they died, and there's no magic language on the deed, and you find out they died, we're gonna have to do probate in Florida, which really means it's just this process we have to go through, filling out paperwork that the heirs fill out, they sign, they get back, we file in court, we get a case number, we submit orders, and then once we get the court orders, we're done. But how we get there is the real journey, the intake side of it, and understanding the qualifying. First of all, there's got to be money in these deals, right? And so whether you're up against back taxes or whether you're up against a foreclosure, a situation where there's a payoff situation, you got to make sure that you know what these numbers are and you're facing. I've seen so many times investors jump in, dive right in, and they're like probate, probate, and then all of a sudden the payoff ends up being three times higher than what everybody thought, and the whole deal's killed, right? So you got to really make sure you know what numbers you're truly working with. And you're working with land, it's tough because the numbers are smaller. And so you're probably not dealing with a foreclosure on land, you're probably dealing with back taxes. You got to really know what your numbers are there. Another big one ends up being the reverse mortgages. Anytime, see, like there's a lot of these great leads out there, but what happens is people will go, "Oh, what about reverse mortgages?" Those end up being the ones with the highest payoffs. And they sometimes won't even tell you what's going on. One little hack that I think some investors can take away from is if you know how to navigate through the clerk of courts and know how to pull through some of the foreclosure dockets, one of the first value sheets that the banks actually provide or file in the case is called a value of foreclosure claim or value of claim. And in that sheet, they are actually detailing out what, as of that date, what the principal and interest is. And so you can have a general idea of what it's going to be. Yeah, sometimes they haven't foreclosed yet. They're going through that period of redemption. But if it's once it's foreclosed, there's a lot of little cues out there that kind of give you an idea of what's going on. In terms of other due diligence, you're looking at things like environmental and wetlands. Some people that go after land, they forget about the tortoises and the birds and the blue lizard and like all these other things that come on the property that, end up being other issues. We also see things where a lot of investors are super high on getting these contracts and they're not realizing there's a lot of other things that title has now pulled, right? And so one of the biggest proponents, and Mason, you've seen me talk about this for years on the slides, is I always like seeing the title commitment and the supporting documentation from the title company because the title, at the end of the day, to close the deal, it's the underwriter calling the shots and saying what is needed to close. And if they don't like it on their list and it's still not resolved, it's not closing. So on these title commitments, you may find things where there's certified judgments, there's nuisance liens, there's code violations. You may find that there's phantom mortgages. You may find that there's a notice of interest filed by another party. The title commitments are a really great roadmap for what is encumbering on that property because that could hold up your entire deal. There's a lot of different situations that we've seen where people will do that, and then qualifying them out too is making sure a lot of these people are ready and willing to move forward with you as well. See, what I've seen as well is a lot of investors will go, "Hey, I got somebody on the phone." It's like, great, but are they going to sign your contract? Are they going to actually provide the death certificates that we need? Are they going to provide us with the will? Are they going to provide us with the items and the people that we're going to need? And so a lot of investors think, oh man, we're so high on the contract, we're so high on getting the call, but it's like, wait, are they going to give us these items? Are we going to be able to go through title? Are we going to be able to make sure we can do this? And then, Mason, you'll agree, one of the other important parts that investors forget about is great locking it up. What's your exit strategy? What's your dispo? Do you even have buyers that are going to be willing to buy that? We've seen many investors lock up these deals and they don't have an end buyer on the other side and they're just stuck holding it right in the middle. So, I'm so many I could probably just keep throwing out of my head and keep
Yep.
going.
Well, that's the qualifying. You mentioned, in your intro, pay at closing. We can talk a little bit about that if you want, and then obviously the myths of the multi-month, 6 month versus a couple weeks. That would be a
Sure,
good one to talk about too.
sure.
And then the assessment of the silver tsunami.
Yeah, I mean, so in terms of timing, one a lot of people used to think probates took 9 months, 12 months, 2 years, and I'm sure there's still investors and people out there that are going through deals right now that are stuck in them or know clients that the file's been stuck with that attorney. It's still not moving. It's frustrating. It's crazy. And I know many investors that will email me and tell me this, and it's wild to see that. Um, so what I've really been able to show investors and realtors is probates take a matter of weeks, not months. not endless months upon months. We always tell everybody on average you're looking at 4 to 8 weeks. Sometimes if we're dealing with formal notice, so what I call like the more curative deals and more curative probates, we're dealing with like 6 to 12 weeks. Maybe some counties are a little bit more longer, like Pinellas and some of the other rural counties, and they're going to take a little bit longer, maybe 3 months, 4 months, but they're not taking that long. And timing depends on a lot of factors. Timing depends on when the heirs get the documents back to us, obviously when they respond, when they get the documents back to us, when the clerk actually accepts everything. Once we've submitted everything, how long does it take for documents to get sent to the courthouse? Waiting for the judge to review everything because everybody's on different time frames. So timings all varied upon the judge's rotating docket when things come in. It's not even just the attorney side of it. We're judicial assistant. We had one recently where we sent orders in back in May and we still hadn't heard anything. We've been following up like crazy and finally got a hold of them and they said, oh, we're filing everything today. It's like, it's not always the attorney side. Sometimes it's just the court processes side. But on average, 4 to 8 weeks. I will tell you, disclaimer, this is not every case. This can happen. Not saying it's going to happen, but we actually did a 7 hour probate last week. We had all the documents. We filed everything like on a Friday at 8 a.m. and we got court orders at like 3:40 in the afternoon.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was
Whoa.
awesome. It was
Is that the
awesome.
fastest one ever?
No, fastest one still is 2 hours in Washington County.
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah,
I bet
but
you there's a bunch of people in here like, man, that
yeah,
9 month one I just dealt with. It'd be so nice to have a 7 hour.
yeah, yeah. And every county is going to be different. Like, there's no way we could ever do a 7 hour probate in Pinellas. There's no way in Escambia County it would ever be like that. Like, I think a lot of it just depends on the speed of the counties, the processing and everything. But we move at the speed that we absolutely can to see how we can get things moving and through. But 4 to 8 weeks is average. Now, in terms of the silver tsunami, it was really great that you brought that up. There's so many. I wish I could show you this chart too. There's a chart that I saw recently just talking about like the influx of the baby boomer era of the United States. And then there was one that centralized on just Florida alone, and the way that it just was going. I hope like from this angle it's like going up. So it's going
It
up.
is.
Yeah, okay. It's crazy to see like there's going to be a 40% increase in the number of these baby boomers and baby boomer owned properties. And this is not a niche that's going down. Like the amount of data, and I know data set is big about the obituary data and all
Mhm.
the data that we're seeing is only going to keep increasing with probate leads and probate deals. And so this and everybody loves it because this is a great niche to get in. People inherit property. Either they don't want it, they want to sell it. It's like it's very yeah, it could be sentimental property, but man, there's a lot of people that don't want to keep it. And they just don't want to deal with it anymore. So the silver tsunami is the next 20 to 30 years of this gigantic shift of all the baby boomer owned properties that are going to be around. And you're talking in Florida, the metros of Miami, Tampa, and Orlando as the top four of the because of Phoenix actually I remember seeing stats. Phoenix and Arizona was like in the top as well. But the top four for biggest areas that people are going to be exploring for probate. So it's massive, Mason. Like and I've been talking about it since 22 and still been talking about it since 2018 and it's here to stay.
Okay. And now let's touch base on that probate Macarena.
So yeah, so it's always so hard to do it on camera, but I want to bring this to life for people. So I think the biggest competitive edge, and I talked about this at the summit, which is it's a very important thing. I think the biggest competitive edge that people and investors can get into right now with a lot of these probate deals is truly understanding the prospecting of building out trees and understanding family trees and putting them together. But it's also like, how did we get there, right? Like, how are we getting to the point of, oh, we need the cousins? So, anytime you get a probate and you're talking to some of these people, look, you're not going to know everything to ask, and they're going to tell you one thing and they're going to tell me a different thing. It's the
Mm.
same thing over and over. Whenever you're getting these deals, you always got to ask, where's the original inkwell? That's the first question you have to find out because if there's a will, one, we need to see it. Who's it leaving everything to? We don't want to find out later, like, oh, John had the original ink will, and you're thinking Betty and Sue are the only heirs, right? So if there's no will, the next thing we do is we have to go down what we call the intestate line. Testate meaning will, intestate meaning no will. Now, when you have no will in Florida, it creates a certain line of succession of who gets what next. It's the succession line. And so anytime we have a succession line, we always start at the surviving spouse. Spouses have rights in Florida. So when you're building out your tree, you got to start with the spouse. And the question I always ask is, was there a spouse or is there a spouse alive at the time of the person's death? It matters. And then if the answer is no, we go to children. We go down. We go to children ever, 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 ever. Not the last one. I'm the only one. They all are gone. Like that's not the phrase. The phrase is ever, ever. Why? Because if there were five kids and one of those kids died in 1990 and they had children, it drops down to their kids, and these kids come into the picture as well. I don't care what the family says. Oh, they had nothing to do with it. There's no part of it. No, 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 no. This is the way the law is. This is how the law works. And so we have to know that because why? Those kids now are going to have to go under your contract. Those kids you're going to have to get them on for a 100% purchase. You're going to need these people on board. So making sure you're asking the right questions and understanding the tree. So you go to children ever, and if none, and there's any people that died after or before, you go to grandchildren, and then you go up to parents, and no parents, grandparents, and then none of that
Yep.
out to brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews. And you can go brothers, half sisters. We have that. Nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, cousins. You can go to second cousins. And if still none, you would go down the pre-deceased spouses line and start the whole line over again. So the probate Macarena was something that I started doing because when I took the bar exam, you're in a room, there's no notes, like you literally like you gotta figure this thing out, right? And so you don't have a lot of time to study and memorize. You're just like, I need to come up with anything. So I remember doing this like dance thing, up, out, down, and I did it at an event. I don't even remember, it was 21 or something, and somebody was like, that was the probate Macarena. And I was like, what? They're like, yeah, you just did the probate Macarena. You went up and down, out, down, up. So every time I go to these presentations, I do it. And what it is like you start at spouse, then you go
Mhm.
down to kids, grandkids, great grandkids, then you go up to parents, grandparents, great grandparents, brothers, half sisters, nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, maternal side, paternal side, cousins, second cousins, and the line goes on and on. And so there's a lot of people that see that at these presentations and they're just like, I did it in the kitchen. I did the whole thing
It
and it works.
does. It
So
does. I can see that.
yeah. So that's the probate Macarena.
You know what I'm going to do now is who's got a question about the probate Macarena? Who's got a question about the lineage and stuff like that? Let's answer that now before we get too far. If you want, you can type it or you can just unmute and ask if you have a question. And if there's no questions in a couple seconds, I'll just move on.
I have a question, Al. Um,
Hey, Mara.
how are you?
I'm good.
Good. So I do also have an attorney that's local where I market, And what has worked fantastic for us is that we only, or she requires only one heir to agree, and then we list every other legal heir that needs to be involved, but we don't need their signature. Is that something that you feel comfortable doing, or you only will process if everyone is in agreement?
So here's the big side of this is if this is Florida and this is a homestead property, the
Mhm,
problem that you run into is that even when you get one heir and that starts the whole probate process, at
mhm,
the end of the day, when you get the homestead order, the title underwriter's still going to require everybody to sign the deeds and sign off on it. And what happens when they don't? And then
mm,
you can't close.
mhm,
So I always tell people if we're in the Florida market
mhm.
and you got homestead property because it's a primary residence, we really want to see that everyone signed because if they don't, you're not closing, and how are you going to enforce it at that point?
Got it. Okay. Because I'm going to tell you, we've closed on several in this situation, and she just sends them their share.
I mean, when it comes to title insurance, they still require all of them to
Yeah.
sign. So
But I
that's the,
guess that she's doing the title as well. So maybe that's why. Maybe she's over, I don't know. I mean,
I
she's
don't
been
know.
doing this for 30 years, here in Florida.
I couldn't tell you all I
Right.
know and what we
Okay.
see all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just what's required is
Mm-hmm.
that because the problem is what happens when you get that homestead order? We get it, and that's fine. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when you can't get the others to sign off on it?
Yeah. Right.
I mean, I can get the probate done with one person. You got four heirs. See, I'm not
Mm.
worried about this, right? Like you got a probate and there's four heirs and you only got one. I have no problem doing the probate so it moves to the four. But the thing is if I'm waiting until closing to get paid and
Right.
you don't have the three and you get two and three and then fourth one says I'm not signing anything,
Mm.
unless you're planning to do some kind of curative situation where you're going to buy out the three and then do a partition and stuff like, but
Mm.
if you're going to need to get the other people to do it. Now,
Okay.
the exception is if it's non-homestead. So if it ends up being
Ah.
not the primary residence.
Mhm,
So we've had cases where the guy lived in Sarasota.
mhm.
Sorry, he did not. He lived in Michigan. He had a house in Sarasota. He had two kids. They were ready to go. Date of death was less than 2 years. At the time, it was it was more than 75,000. At that point, we only need one to sign the contract.
Wow.
Yeah, because at that point, what we would be doing is a formal administration. And the formal administration, we only
Yes.
need one to sign,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
the
Yes.
and then the
Yes.
others would get there. So her situation is probably a couple one-offs because
Yeah.
they're non-homestead, right? And we do
Yes.
that
Yes.
all day.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. You hit it right on the nail. Yep. That's what it is. These are non-homestead. So I
Yeah.
guess I've been lucky with that part, because
Yeah.
it's made my life a lot easier, to get them done.
Yeah.
So,
There's no way getting around homestead. We've
right.
we
Right.
we
Right.
we
Right.
we tried.
Okay.
Underwriters won't do it.
Right. Okie dokie. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good question, Mara. Raphael?
Yeah, okay, understood. For non-homestead properties, I understand, there's a personal representative that you have the authority or power to sell or might need a court approval. And with that person, you just you just need the signature of that person, and the proceeds of the sale just go to the state, and then the state whatever distributes on wherever it is. But
Yeah,
I guess
so
so if it's a non-homestead, you have a PR that has a letter of administration. Are you just good to go, or is there anything else that we need to see or verify?
80% so don't forget this too. You want to simplify the process as much as possible. Formal administrations don't come up as often as people think. Many times these end up being not, they can be non-homestead, and then we could just simply do a summary administration, move it to the three kids sign, you're done. You want to make it as simple as possible. Now, if you run into one that's non-homestead and we have to do it that way, right? It's something that you only want one. There's three others. And it has to be a formal because it does not qualify to be a summary. At that point, we only need one of them to be the PR. The others still technically have to sign off on the sale in the probate. And not only is it just getting a letters of administration, it's also getting what's called an order authorizing sale. So the order authorizing sale is a document that we get court approval for the sale to go through. And some courts want to see a comparative market analysis to show that it's a fair market and value. But a lot of people run into summaries more than they do formals, just because of the qualification. And again, it's got to really fit that box of being what we call non-homestead.
Got it. Thanks.
Awesome. We're going to take Emily's question, and then after that, I'm going to hop back in with some of mine.
Hi, Al. Quick
Hey,
question. So from an if an investor is going after probate, what is it that you would like us to bring to you for you to start the process to make sure that we have everything that you would need to get the ball rolling?
it's a great question. I have a checklist, and Mason, I'm going to send it to you so we can you can get
Yep.
it circulated to
It
everybody.
was in my next most commonly asked question. I was
Okay.
actually going to answer it for you. You need to go there and do the probate Macarena in front of him.
I want to see
Okay,
it.
yeah. If you want to send me that,
Yeah,
or do you have a team member in the call by chance that could put it in the chat? If not, just send it
I
to me and I'll post it in the group.
I don't, but I probably could drop it in there. Can I just like literally drop it in that chat box right
Yeah.
there?
Yep. If it's like a download or a PDF, it'll be that easy.
I think the admin restrictions
Okay.
is
Yep. Just send it to me on Facebook, and then guys, I'll just post it in the Facebook group as a general post. So just keep an eye out for that today, everyone in here. Cool. Um, okay. So the last kind of frequently asked question I know you get is, you mentioned pay at closing. There's some that's, pay ahead of time. Let's talk about that, and then let's talk about because one of the things that I feel like is an uncomfortable feeling for investors is the idea that they need to build relationships with, their contractors, maybe some attorneys, so they can feel comfortable with the next deal a little smoother, and not everyone is personable like you might be, Al. So, um, how do you be a better investor when it comes to like developing that relationship? How do you make an attorney happy? Is it that checklist that we're talking about? Like how, you know what I mean? Like how can you make it easier to develop that relationship with the probate attorney?
I mean, for at least my end, I can't really speak to a lot of the people that have been doing it for 20, 30 years that, I couldn't explain that, but for what makes me happy, oh yeah, you got a deal. We got you got the documents from the checklist. You're able to understand our process because like the way we work is we have a front end and a back end. So we have my assistant Gwen, she does all the intake, and then we get up on the calendar and it's being able to get it's having the heirs and everybody just kind of corral onto the conference call, or at least one heir. And
Mhm.
then being able to know a little bit about our process, and know how we work and know our follow up cadence. But I would say that's a big one because the investors that send the things that we ask for and or gather the people together and coordinate it all together make it the most simple and easy process, right? The ones that piecemeal and it just doesn't really go anywhere. So I would say that and of course, like really understanding a lot of the picture too, sometimes giving a summary of what's going on is really helpful. I think that we've seen that a little bit more is being able to like give us a little context of what's going on. Not, hey, I got this probate deal, it's on this property. Like I don't know what's going, and then we get on the conference call and it's all over
Mhm.
the place. But giving a little background to stuff is super helpful for what we do.
If you work, if let's say if you work with 15 investors in a month, new investors, how many of them are coming at you and you're like, shit, this is not how I hoped this would go?
You know, you'd be surprised. I haven't seen that really actually
Okay,
recently. I feel like that happened maybe in the beginning part of the process in my early years of like, but that was actually my issue because I didn't have the checklist. I didn't
sure,
have that process, right? So there was a lot of enabling that, but
sure.
now when you institute a process and you make sure everybody knows the players and who's
Mhm.
around, it hasn't happened as like that. And actually it's been great. I mean, investors that have reached out, I mean, we work with Carson and Mara sent over stuff at times. And so, I mean,
Sure,
there's investors that get what we need or get our process on stuff.
sure. Okay. So once you kind of found your standards, it was easier for you. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Emily, I saw you had your hand raised. Was that just the reminiscent of the first question?
Yeah, I took it down.
Okay, perfect. No worries, no worries. Okay, so I'm gonna try and dive into some of these other questions here, and then guys, remember if you have questions, this is an open thing, so just raise your hand. Um, is there such thing as an unclosable case, like an unclosable deal?
An unclosable deal. I mean, we have to see what kind of numbers we're dealing with as well on that, right?
Hmm.
Unclosable, maybe titles that clogged up or that muddied, and then there ends up being no equity in the deal. Maybe that's something that happens, but if there's money in the transaction and there's tools and creativity at our disposal, I don't think deals are unclosable. I think it's just going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of expertise. It's going to take a lot of brain power to figure out like what's the best solution. Um, but at the end of the day, too, if there ends up being something that just doesn't fit the box for everybody, then it's just not a deal anybody wants to get
Sure.
involved in, right? Um, like we had a crazy one that almost completely blew up because well for first of all the guy that died he was like a one-fourth owner and
Mm,
when he died oh yeah you'll love this he was a one-fourth owner he died he had a will and in his will it left it to nine people and of the nine people like five were dead and then like another person died after. So really when the numbers came in, we were like at eight probates. And I remember, saying it's going to be eight times, and it was everybody's like, "Oh, we're good, we're good." Well, we got all of them done and then we did it in like 2 months and then the payoff came back and it was three times higher. So it made the numbers get really razor thin on stuff and it almost became an unclosable deal, but luckily and fortunately, in some way, the numbers still were there. So, it really comes down to numbers and comes down to creativity.
okay. DM, I believe you're muted, my friend. Oh, and your mic ain't working.
Oh, how
Oh,
about
there you are.
now?
Got you.
So, Al, thank you for taking the time to do this. Quick
Sure.
question. I'm in a probate state, Minnesota. I talked to a probate attorney and, I was running through maybe like getting assignment of blah, blah, blah assigned to me and then going and running probate. And he's like, well, courts don't always love when an investor is leading probate and yada yada yada. Any thoughts on that? Do you guys is that how you guys do it down in Florida? Is assign it, run the full thing, and everybody just maybe the first few were a little bit weird for the courts to see, and now they're just kind of used to it.
Yeah, we really haven't seen any problems with it. If anything, there was one case that we had in Palm Beach, and the judge wanted to see the assignment, but just looked at it and just wanted to know it actually existed. Um, I think there's a lot of attorneys that aren't really into understanding that kind of stuff. And I think that was probably what you were thinking of. This guy probably or this lady doesn't know what's going on with this. So I would say that you may want to try seeing if you can venture to maybe a local RIA or another bigger investor meetup. Somebody's got to know another attorney that's been doing curative stuff and more messy stuff. But in Florida, yeah, we're seeing a lot of investors start doing this where look, it's great when you can get the 100% purchase and the wholesale deal and the assignment, but then all of a sudden you find these ones where I only got two out of the three kids and the third one can't be found anywhere, and you need them. And so what some are doing is they're getting the assignment, they're getting the deed, they're getting some of the documents, and then what they're doing is coming to us, and then we're running the probate through them as petitioner. And then we get probate done, and then they record their deeds, and now they own the two-thirds. It's like, and there's title companies too. There's a lot of title companies that don't want to understand or don't think you can do all this. And then there's title companies that we know here in Florida that are like, oh yeah, we do this all the time. We'll help close curative stuff. So yeah, I think you're probably needing to look for somebody else that's like, yeah, we could do this.
So then, if you open probate, you got two-thirds. Are you going to probate, opening it, and now you're noticing that last third, and then they don't reply? So now it's, how does that work?
You still have to notice them. You if you
Yeah.
you it, you have to find their last known address or do skip tracing, and we serve them certified mail. If they don't respond, they still become a part of the probate order, right? They still go on title.
Hmm.
So, assuming you wrap it up, assuming the judge puts it in a third, a third, a third, now you own the two-thirds. The next logical step is either you find them and you can locate them and get them on board, or if you can't or they're resistant, in Florida we have what's called partition, which is forcing the sale. So that's the only other remedy that you have available to trying to, it's almost like wholesaling through the court system in a way, right? Like you're
Yeah.
you're you're getting a sale through.
I didn't know if in probate, if you notice them and they don't reply, they don't say, "Oh yeah, I do want to own part of that," if you still need a partition beyond that. Or if probate kind of dealt with, okay, this person doesn't care. They're, it's all awarded to you now. But thank you for answering that.
Yeah, and to add a layer to this, kind of what Mara was going through with the homestead and non-homestead. Homestead, you're kind of trapped in this two-thirds, one-third partition route if you can't get the third one. Non-homestead, there's a way that in the probate we would just do a formal serve the third one. They don't respond. We serve them the motion and everything. We get a court order, and then the PR now is authorized to sign for the sale documents. And then the estate money gets written to us, and then we write the check back out for the third one into the Department of Unclaimed Funds Registry Department.
Ah, that was going to be my next question. So appreciate that.
Yeah, but that's non-homestead, right? It's like you everybody hears it and it's like, can't we just do that? It's like you can if it qualifies for that.
Hmm.
Awesome. Cool, cool. My follow-up to that would be, so do you, I don't know if you look at yourself as an educator, but you are. Um, what is what is one of the hardest kind of messages or concepts that you've been able to like, you just feel like you have a hardest time getting across to the people that you speak to? Since, I mean, how many speaking engagements have you done this year?
Oh my gosh.
Couple
Actually, this is
dozen?
this is probably got to be the most in 1 year. More than 12 for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So what is like the message that's one of the hardest things for you to get across where you feel like it's just not sticking and you wish it did?
Oof, you got me on this one right now. It's so hard to pin down one thing. I think it's I think it's everybody just truly understanding the overall process. I really think a lot of this, if you're new to the game, I think a lot of this is contextual and you got to go through the actual process of going through probate. and going through your first couple deals for you to kind of understand the flow. And I think it's more that what's the hardest. It's the hardest is the ones that haven't been through it. The hardest that they don't see that what the end result is. For the advanced people, I think the hard part is seeing the new curative stuff as an angle to the end game for a lot of deals. Because I'm sure you can imagine, Mason, there's so many investors that I've worked with for years, and only now, just because of the hot buzzword of curative, are they starting to be like, peak interest into, maybe this is a way into some of these deals. And so I think it's I think it's one of those that you can't say it the first time, you can't say it the second time. It's like it takes 5 to 12 times before it's like, oh, I see where this is going with this. So, on the advanced stuff is getting people to see the partitions could be an angle. It's getting to see that, maybe the minors and the guardianships aren't really that bad if you understand like what you're going to need with a repair list and a CMA, or, maybe it's not that bad when you know that you just got to get title to give us an understanding of what's going to take to clear it. So, um, I'd say those would be the two, but that's a hard one. It's hard.
Hmm. That was my hopes. It was going to make you think a little bit. Carlos had a follow-up to the previous question from DM in the chat. What do you mean by homestead? Do you mean if one of the heirs are living on the property, it's considered homestead? Sorry, I jumped in a little late.
So homestead for probate is means, did the deceased person live and reside in the property? Did they always intend to reside in the property? And that is what qualifies it for probate, is for homestead. And so if they lived and resided in the property, what it means upon the person's death, title vests in the true heirs. And so that's why when you have homestead property, you need all these people to sign off, because that's the theory behind homestead. It's title vest. Non-homestead, it doesn't immediately vest. It still stays in the estate name. Yes, these end up being who the true heirs are, but you have to go through a different procedure on it.
And then I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think it's Bassem. He said, does the type of estate matter? Are some types easier to close than other, or some are not worth the time slash hassle? It's kind of
Well,
similar to one of my questions earlier, but yeah.
I mean, 80 to 90% of the probates that we deal with in Florida are going to be summary administrations. And just as a bonus for people here, the threshold for the qualification of a summary administration just went up from 75,000 to 150,000 on July 1st. So ideally, if possible, the best method is go summaries. Why? They're the faster. They're in and out, right? So when Basim, you're asking, which types are easier. Well, summaries are always going to be the cleanest, the fastest, if you have everybody. But sometimes the formals are just we have to do them. Those are going to take a little bit more intricate time and a little bit more intricacies on getting the contract approved, and the judge has to look at it. See, in a summary, judge isn't looking at the contract. Judge is not looking at really anything except just the probate docs. In the formals, they're looking at the contract, they're looking at the comparables and everything. So, but overall in Florida, it's all worth the time. It's all worth the hassle in these deals.
Cool. All right, my next follow-up would be I want to talk about, so I mentioned before the interview on Facebook between you and I that we just released our obituary data. And I was curious how, since we're getting there early, how does that relate to you? Is that helpful to you now that we're getting there earlier because now we have more time to get information to you? What do you how do you see the opportunities in that for us with working with probate attorneys?
I mean, obituary data means that the person probably recently passed. And so there's a higher chance that they haven't retained an attorney yet. They usually, I would say it's probably about a 3 to 5 month gap of once the person dies, and then eventually they move to that next stage of like they got to take care of assets. It's not usually an immediate thing. So yeah, I mean, in terms of just on fresh data, it's one that at some point they're going to have to do something. They're likely not retained, so that means that at that point, we're happy to help them address the concerns or address the estate when they come in, and it's awesome to see that that's another lead source for everybody out there.
So it's not a massive change in the relationship with us because we're still waiting on information, the secured lead, all that. Okay. Just wasn't
Yeah, I
sure.
mean, at the end of the day, we still got to go through the whole process, right? Like, I mean, it's just another
Yeah.
indicator of distress at that point.
Well, there's also been some murmurs in the community about some areas people can't market to people with obituaries within a certain period of time, and like, so there's some weird nuance that's come up in the group that I'm like, I didn't even know these were questions. So, I don't
I didn't
know.
know that. I didn't hear. I've never heard
Yeah,
about that. Is
I
that
don't know.
Florida? Is that other states?
I don't know. It sounds like there's some states maybe where obituaries filed, there might be like a time period where marketing has to wait. I don't know. I could be making this up. But Raphael has a question. We'll move on to him. What you got, man?
Yes, just I mean, if you were in our position as investor looking for deals in the probate market, how would you look for deals? I mean, given the expertise that you have in the area.
You're talking about like just the lead indicators of finding probate deals. I think still to this day, top are pre-foreclosures, tax delinquencies, and code violations. Tax delinquencies are probably one of the favorable best because there's generally no mortgage on the property and there's a lot more equity involved, and you're not dealing with unknown payoffs and unknown liens attached to the property at that point. So I think tax delinquencies are great, but anywhere in the three, I mean, there's not going to be this like there's only a certain number of these indicators, right? At the end of the day, you just got to dive in and do the digging on who's around, but those are probably the top.
Yeah, but where? So I just kind of wondering if you were to build a pipeline of potential leads for probate in your market, how would you do it? That's kind of my question. So
The
you
best
just
thing
go
you can
to the
do is
court,
pull a list of probates
court
from your county, or you can even
county.
pull some of that data inside DataSift. But getting it straight from your county is one of the best recommendations we would have. Inside DataSift, you can pull obituary data, which is even earlier than your probate lists. So if you're trying to get to people early and fast and get there before your competition, before the bigger companies, that would be one of your best options is pull our obituary data with our expert plan.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, of course, man. Um,
I have
Tyler,
a
I just saw
question.
you were in here.
Oh,
Is that Mara?
yeah,
Go for it.
I'm driving, so I don't know how to raise my hand, sorry. But quick question, because I know that you said you were going to talk about guardianship. Is it okay if I ask you a quick question? Because I'm dealing with one right now that's a little bit hairy.
So
Um, oh,
go for it because those are definitely a little bit more intricate for sure. Those are very
okay.
fact
I'm trying to
specific.
squeeze my lemon right now with you with your expertise, so you can just answer generally, but I want to squeeze my lemon here. Okay, so I have a property. The owner's husband has passed. I pulled the death certificate. She signed for it in 2022. I asked all the neighbors. They believe she's not. I don't think she's dead because I pulled death certificate for her, like all through, like after 2022, because I know she signed the death certificate for her husband. And we strongly believe, because we cannot find her death certificate high and low. I was at the death certificate office. I'm sharing some of my secrets, so don't record this, guys. Okay, so anyway, and I can't find her. We think that she has dementia in a either a hospice or a nursing home. According to her neighbors, she left to a nursing home. They thought she was dead, but she's not. I don't think she's dead. Unfortunately, she probably has dementia, so she's not capable to, say anything or tell anybody where she is. So I found her siblings who have not talked to her for over 30 years, but hey, they're interested in this property and getting money from it, right? So I have all of that perfectly. However, unfortunately, or whatever, I don't know how to say it in a nice way, but she's not dead, so we can't do probate. In this case, how would you handle a situation like this?
I mean, we'd have to talk to one of the siblings, or there's no spouse or
Uh-huh.
children of the lady.
No. So she doesn't have any children. He didn't have any children. She only has two half siblings, like a half brother and a half sister. I spoke to both. They're both down for this, but now I'm heading towards, well, now this is no longer a probate situation. This is
Hmm.
now a guardianship. But the problem that I'm seeing here, because of the HIPAA laws and everything, we can't go and call all the hospitals and or the nursing homes in this situation and be like, hey, is Mary Joe in this place or whatever. They won't release the information. So how would the heirs or how would their legal siblings be able to gain control, and how would we find this lady, even if so how do you deal with something like this when you can't find the person, the owner?
Oh, well, you first of all, they got to find out where she is. I mean,
Oh,
somebody's got to find out where she is. Like they have to. Because it's at some point there's going to end up being some kind of proceeding to determine her status and what like she's capable of understanding or not understanding. And so that's going to come into it. And then on top of that too, like assuming you even found her, assuming that the siblings were down to do this, what kind of money is involved in what she's going to get or what is she going to net? Because whenever we hear guardianship with the elderly, we have to really consider like what the proceeds are because it's not just getting the sale through, it's also taking on the added yearly expenses of maintaining that guardianship as well. So there has to be money because she's going to need it for her care, she's going to need it for things that she's going to
yeah,
do. So there's a lot of different qualifications when you get into the elderly, and you have to be really careful with also the
yep, yep,
price because it's got to be substantiated through like a repair list. It's got to be substantiated through a comparative market analysis. It's detailed.
got it. Okay, that answered my question of where I need to move forward, because the house itself is not worth much and it's extremely in really really bad condition. Also, I think there was a small mortgage taken out in 2018, which really kind of ate up a lot of everything for everybody. So now, after you say this, it kind of probably doesn't make sense
I hear you.
for
It's
anybody.
it's
Yeah,
very it's very
yeah,
it's you have to find them. There's got to be enough room in it.
yep,
It's got
yep.
to be there.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right. Mo, to answer your question, man, is if you're uploading lists into DataSift, they'll stack automatically. So that's an easy answer for you. You can stack them right in Sift. Um, my last question I have written down, and then we can answer a couple more maybe, and then we're gonna have to cut out so Al can get back to his day. I promised him about an hour and a quarter. Um, is more of a personal and kind of like a entrepreneurial based question. We're asking about probates and all these things in process, but the under discussed topic I feel like with you is your relationship to consistency. Over the past 5 years, 6 years that I've known you, your relationship with consistency in as a speaker in the content space, doing public engagements, fitness, all of these things, still running a business, managing a team. What is your relationship to consistency, and how did it change when you decided I'm gonna really hit all these things on the head and just not waver from them because you're an extremely consistent guy. At
Well,
least it appears to be to me.
thank you, Mason. I appreciate that. And I attribute that a lot to first, I would say I was never a organized, I guess consistent, but I don't know if I was like mature back when I was even in college or after college. Like I just a lot of that didn't click. I think it actually took becoming a lawyer and starting and running my own business that I was like, wait, I got, I care about this and, I want to see this succeed. And because if I succeed, others succeed. And then when you start bringing on your team, you want to make sure that they're succeeding. And so it's like, there's a mind flux with a lot of the thought process to it and you have to stay organized. You have to stay driven. Like, and I'm just naturally driven that way. And you have to find a great routine because in order to keep up volume, in order to keep up the pace, in order to go through emails every day, I mean, I have certain points in the day when I do things or when I have my meetings or time block. And I think a lot of times it's creating those boundaries as well. Being able to make sure that you take time for yourself for your early morning or late night workouts or whatever it is, because that contributes to your the way that your mind thinks. And so I think over the years, it just was me going, how do I keep elevating this? How do I keep tweaking this? If we want to do more, how do I need to change? And what do I need to change? And look, a lot of times what people don't realize is what you eat is how you feel. And if you don't eat right, you're not going to feel right and you're not going to perform right. Your body's an engine. Your body, everybody's like focused on their computer. Like you are your own computer. There's Claude and ChatGPT. You are your own AI. So you have to be able to make sure you take care of that with sleep and things that, you eat and your workouts and but forming that routine is the biggest part of this. Like if you don't have structure, if you don't have a system and a process and you're able to filter things out and delineate like your system's not going to work. Like you need to do this like clockwork and um sometimes there's weekends I need to like turn off because I won't stop like I'll just keep going.
So it sounds like it was it a bit of a your back's against the wall kind of thing when you started the company, and it's like, okay, now I got all these things I need to make sure I'm dialed in at.
No, I think it was like I love this lifestyle. So I want to keep the li I want to make sure things keep rolling with it. So when, in order for things to keep rolling with it, you got to keep tweaking to it, right?
Mhm.
And more staff means more overhead, mean more responsibilities, and being able to keep that together. But no, I don't think it was a back against the wall. I think it was more like I I love seeing the growth, and in order to maintain the growth, you have to change with the growth. And changing with the growth means you have to figure out a new routine. Like, for example, my routine right now is different than what my routine was last year. And I know that based upon my routines in the morning, routines in the afternoon. Also, like I think what happens is it's easy when you have the dips in the day of just like nothing happening. It's easy to just kind of like not do anything. You got to use that to your advantage, and you have to find like when you are most productive because there's going to be times in the day you're not productive. So when you're the most productive, you need to leverage that productivity and use that to your advantage. So then later you're not having to feel like you're catching up and everything. And finding days like it's okay to block out a full day and not do calls and not do meetings and actually do catch up day. Catch up day is a good day. And I have like two of those next week. So I made sure because I was like, nope, I'm back from all these events. It's time to get back in dialed in. So consistency is just it's a result of all these other factors that it's habit forming, right? I mean, it's really what it is. It's all I have to do it because I know when I do it, it works.
Perfect. That was clear. Thank you. That helped
Good.
me. That was a selfish question, truthfully.
Hey, I love it. It's a great question. Appreciate that.
I want to open the door for maybe two more questions if you guys have it. Just raise your hand real quick and we'll knock it out. Um, who's got one? I fully expected Tyler to jump in by now. He's floating, hiding in the
I,
dark.
I was, but I was trying to give it, room for somebody else to ask a question. I was also trying to think of one that I could really trip Al up on. Like, what is the most devious question that I could ask? Um, but he kind of have already answered everything that I could think of. He doesn't really get tripped up very easily either. It's either he's really good at being a lawyer and just coming up with stuff that sounds good, or he actually knows what he's talking about.
Hey, I know how to respond to these questions. I know where to
He
fit in
knows his avatar real well. Someone
on
did ask in the chat, where do you find the family tree?
So one of the if you want to find the technical way, you would look under the Florida statutes. And you would go under 732-105 or 732-106, one of those, and for Florida stuff. But you're gonna read that and it's just gonna be all over the place. So in terms of trees, I always just tell people you always start at spouse, then you go to children ever or grandchildren, you go up to parents, grandparents, great grandparents, brothers, sisters, half brothers, half sisters, nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, cousins, second cousins. And then if nobody's there, truly you go down the pre-deceased spouses line and you start the whole thing all over again. And one thing that we didn't even cover is a lot of people they don't realize that pre-deceased and post-deceased make a difference in your tree analysis as well, and understanding that dates of death are a very critical aspect of understanding probates. You have to know when the person died because that date of death actually triggers whether it needs another probate or avoids probate.
Oh, looks like we got one last question. From your experience, what are the biggest reasons an attorney oh gosh, what are we saying? Ad litem?
Ad litem, yeah.
Ad litem hesitates to file their final report. Is it usually unresolved heirship, concern about notice, simply wanting enough evidence to protect themselves in court?
I assume this must be something for, I don't know what state that is, Dominique, but whenever we hear ad litem, yeah, Texas. Whenever we hear ad litem, we always think like that's somebody that goes into like a foreclosure case because an ad litem is basically like a court appointed skip tracer. There's somebody that the court gets appointed to help locate and find out who the heirs are. It's like another added layer of just making sure like who is everybody involved in this estate or on title for the foreclosure so that all the bases are covered. But in terms of filing a report, sometimes they just maybe they don't even know or there's not enough um, of the airship to conclude that. But usually in Florida, we see ad litems eventually file a final report, whether they found everybody or I mean, they're detailing out like all the steps. They look through obituaries, they look through the public records, they downloaded the database source. So at some point they're going to file a final report.
Oh, awesome.
I
Well, with
got
that,
one.
I'm going to leave it as the last question if nobody has one that they want to ask right now. What I do want to briefly lay out, Al, is you're doing one podcast a week, right?
Yeah, we've been doing the podcast. We're kind of doing a smaller season right now because we're going to do some big things come next year with the
Okay,
podcast. So, yep, we've been going live Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we'll probably roll out another 10-ish episodes this year, wrap it up, and then we're super excited for the next phase of what we're going to be doing with this.
cool, cool. So weekly, you can listen to him live every week and listen to his beautiful voice. He's always posting. He's probably coming to a town near you. He is truly an awesome guy. So I really appreciate you, man, taking your time here. I know you got a busy schedule, and talking to me is not at the top of that.
Of course it is. You're having a great time. I love it. I love it. And really
um,
appreciate you, Mason. Thank you for hosting this,
awesome.
and thanks for everybody for being on. It's always awesome.
Yep. And we'll have this recording out probably by the end of the day, guys, in the SIFT Academy. It'll be out next Monday on YouTube, and then we will extract as many clips from this as we can. So if you needed something to remember, there was a topic that you forgot about, you will be seeing it on our social media. So thank you guys for attending. Al's gonna send me the checklist, and I will have that in the Facebook group later today. So I appreciate you guys, and we will see you in 2 weeks, where I think Tyler is going to be doing the next call about curative, possibly.